If you had just watched my daughter strike out on a two-strike changeup like this, what technique would you have suggested she needed to fix in order to start to crush them? So let me know what you think in the comments, because what we actually did is after she struck out a handful of times on some changeups in a showcase, we went and did some specific training things I'm going to talk about in this video for a full month, and then she came back and did this, where she started to crush two-strike changeups. Can you spot the technique that we started to teach her and that she was using to launch this changeup into the gap? Here, I'll play it for you again in slow motion. If not, let me break down the 3-step drill series that I used to help teach her this move in the course of 30 days between the first strikeout and this video, so that you can add it to your practices to start crushing two-strike changeups too. Now, there's actually 2 moves a hitter needs to master in order to be able to hit the changeup well. So let's dive into how we teach those. The first drill we like to teach is the ride it out drill. In this drill, we set a tee and we set it up on the outside corner of the plate as far out as you think you'd need to put a tee, where an umpire might be able to call it a strike on the outside corner. For youth baseball and softball, that's all the way out to the chalk line. And I don't know why you youth umpires think that's okay to call a strike for small youth hitters who don't have long arms, then they can't reach it, but you apparently all do, so we got to train accordingly, right? So that's step 1. You have to be able to hit that pitch. Then what we do is we set up a second tee out in front on the inside corner to represent a changeup and where you would have to hit it out front when you're fooled and early. Then what happens is the person feeding the tee gives a verbal cue, where as soon as they see the hitter's hip start to go forward, they call out fastball, or changeup. And here's the key for this drill. The hitter has to think, I'm gonna hit the outside pitch off that opposite field foul pole, but if coach calls a changeup, then I'm gonna ride my hip out longer and go get that changeup and pull it. Which is the technique I've shown my daughter how to do, where watching my older son, he actually used it to get his first high school varsity hit with 2 strikes, where in his first ever at bat, he actually went down 0-2 to a pitcher who ended up committing to play Division I baseball and ends up using that oppo fastball approach to almost hit a double down the left field line on an outside fastball until he eventually got a hanging off speed pitch over the middle of the plate, where he is able to ride out his hip and smoke it to right field. So that's the first strategy that a hitter needs to learn. But like I mentioned earlier, there's a second strategy that you need to learn as well. Because if you recognize the pitch out of the hand, that's great. But if you recognize it a little later, you need to use the second strategy, which is the strategy my daughter actually used to hit this changeup to the wall. And if you haven't figured out what the strategy is yet, check this out. Look at how her knee bends as she recognizes the pitch is a changeup. To buy time, she's sinking into her front leg, which allows her to collect her energy and keep her hands back so she can explode into the ball. And when we compare that swing to other swings where she hits a fastball, do you see how she's using this sinking strategy to crush changeups and how that's different with how her body would want to work when she's on time to a fastball? If you look at elite hitters, they do this too. Here's a shot at Griffey, sinking into his front legs on an off-speed pitch. It's a powerful strategy, but the question is, how do you actually train it, right? For that, we like to use the drill that we call the Drunken Shuffle. Fun name, but it's a really good drill, where what we do is we ask the athlete to take 2 shuffles towards us while we bounce them a ball. And literally our goal is to make sure that they are off balance and off time, and then still try to hit the ball, which is what they do when they're fooled by pitches in a game. And what kids will start to do is learn that when their front foot lands early, they have to keep their hands back while they sink into their front leg if they want to have a shot at hitting balls they have landed early on. And by teaching this move, we can actually train hitters the extra adjustability they need to be able to pull off hitting changeups. So we can then move it to the next level of difficulty, where we try to fool them with machines, where we put them in a drill that we call the kill switch drill, where we'll have the machine feeding fastballs, but we'll every now and then randomly turn it off to simulate getting a changeup. Just be sure that when you do this, that you make it like realistic and don't throw changeups that are more than about 10 miles an hour slower, or it really does get unrealistic for the kid. Plus, I gotta warn you here, this is probably the hardest hitting drill we ever put hitters in, so stick with this. At first, they won't hit shit. Then after a week, they'll start to foul off some pitches. Then, only after a lot of work at this can they actually start to drive 2-strike off-speed pitches. Stick with these drill progressions and your hitters will be crushing 2-strike changeups too.